Next up, just before we break for lunch, we have a keynote on a zero trust approach to network security. And I would like to welcome on stage Hoda Taheri, who is Information Security System Manager with Snoonu. If you could come on stage, please.
Hello, everyone. Okay, I believe that the only barrier between you and lunch is me. So, till now, we heard lots of amazing samples and experiences on what happened if we are not going to consider zero trust in our organization. But now we are talking about, okay, what is zero trust? In information security, if you are working as information security, how often do we hear these kind of responses in our organization? A lot. Like zero trust, it's only a marketing. It's nothing. It's something that they are going to get money by that term. Like I have 200 firewalls that's surrounding my internal network. Nothing is going to happen to me. So I'm secured 100%. It's only for external. Something that I have seen in Qatar a lot is, maybe it's related to the culture, but it's, I'm hearing this a lot, that my organization value is based on trust. How I can change this value for my employees and said, okay, from tomorrow I'm going to have zero trust and I'm going to approach based on this zero trust. Let's start with this very common and simple example that I'm going to provide security to my own house. Maybe I'm going to start with having some fence around the house. I can use, based on my budget, the high technology lock or a normal lock on the door. It depends to my budget. Maybe I can use some security camera. If I have the budget, maybe I hire a security guard to protect my house. That's good. So till now, I have followed lots of security rules to provide security for my own house. But I have one assumption here. And the assumption is that the bad guy is going to be outside of the house. What if the bad guy is inside the house? The bad guy is inside my house. He is using my house resources. He is using the electricity. He is using internet, water. If I have my credit card on the table, he can use my credit card. He can do the payment. So he can use my money. Yes, I have followed all the rules to provide security for my house, but with the assumption that the bad guy is going to be outside of my house. So all these rules that I follow up till now will not help me to provide security if the bad guy is going to be inside my house. The traditional model that we were using was that we have some application on the cloud, and we have on-premises services inside my internal network. So I have internet, DMZ, and internal, which in traditional model we call them untrusted, DMZ, trusted. The user is going to send, if the user is on the internet, is going to send the request to my VPN server. The VPN server is going to authenticate or maybe authorize the user using MFA solution. Once the user is authenticated, the VPN server is going to give IP address to the user. Once the user have the IP address, it means that, okay, I'm sitting inside the network, I am in the internal network, and I can have access to whatever resources that I have in my internal network. What is the challenge here? The challenge is that I don't have any visibility that what's going on in my cloud network. In the zero trust model, we have internet, DMZ, and we have internal. But in zero trust model, we categorize them as untrusted, untrusted, untrusted. We don't trust any zone. Same, we have the same model. We have the user, we have a bunch of applications on the cloud, and we have some services that it's on as on-premises in my internal network. The user is going to send the request to one reverse proxy, The reverse proxy is talking to the SSO solution, whatever solution I have for my organization, to authorize the user. The SSO is going to communicate with one sort of LDAP connection. It can be internal, it can be on the cloud, it can be Azure Active Directory, whatever it is. And SSO is going to authorize the user. Once the user is authorized, we will see that what was the destination request. If it is on the cloud, the request is going to stand on the cloud. So this user is going to have nothing to do with my internal network. He will not even see my internal network. But what happens if the user needs to have access to one server inside my network? The reverse proxy is going to tunnel that user to anything and to the destination that he needs to have access to my internal network. The key change here now, I have the complete visibility that what's going on inside the cloud, what's going on exactly inside my internal network. I can define all these access, the level of access, whatever I need to define using the policies that I'm going to define in the SSO solution. Do I need to have like 100% implicit trust to my services? It is impossible. Also, it is impossible to have 100% zero trust to all the services. There is level of trust that I'm going to define for different services that I'm using inside my organization. This different level of trust is going to define by risk. So I need to have the risk assessment inside my organization based on the different services that I'm using. Based on the risk assessment result, I can say, okay, the level of trust that I'm going to have to this group of services is very close to zero trust, or for some services, it might be close to implicit trust. NIST have suggestion for all the organization that if you follow these 7 pillars, it might be easier for you to implement zero trust inside your organization. It is not necessary that in all organizations we are going to have all the 7 pillars. It totally depends to the organization needs. But the most important is the resources. We need to make sure that all the assets, network assets, connections, services, user data, we have to make sure that we provide sufficient security for these resources because these are my resources. If I have the policy of bring your own devices inside my organization, I need to make sure that I'm providing security for those devices as well. Any communication that we have inside our network or outside the network with vendor, with supplier, with contractor, these communication, we need to make sure that we are providing sufficient security for this communication. If it is a communication channel which is not a standard inside my organization, I cannot provide security for those channels. Persistent access is another term for access policy. I need to make sure that we have access policy for any access that users, employees are going to have to critical resources of my organization. These policies should be dynamic. We need to have policy administrator. Policy administrator is going to set up the policy based on the risk assessment that we have for any resources that we have inside our organization. We need to monitor all the access that we have to our critical resources inside the organization. As I believe Ron said, that authentication is fine, but it's not enough. We need to authorize the access. Sometimes, if I have the username and password, it doesn't mean that, okay, I'm secure because I have password. No, I need to be authorized. Which device I'm going to connect, maybe the country that I am located, I should not have access to organization resources inside that country. Continuous improvement, any network asset, connections, services, we need to have continuous monitoring on all these assets, and we need to make sure that we are improving the security for these assets all the time. It should be as a daily basis. All the concepts that we shared till now, it was about, okay, zero trust is really great. We can implement good security, good level of security for our organization using zero trust. So it was like advantages of having zero trust. But I am not saying disadvantages, but there are lots of challenges. My organization might not be ready to have the zero trust concept inside the organization. I might need to have some changes, some configuration change, some maybe infrastructure change to implement the zero trust inside my organization. So I may need to change some application from the basic, the infrastructure of the applications. So I have configuration challenges. And the most challenges would be with DevOps team, developers, and because we need to make those changes. This is the challenge for the organization. And the dependency to the policy administrator. It might have some delay on getting some accesses, or because the access is going to be reviewed. And maybe any employee who need to have access to any critical resource, it might be questioned that why you need to have this access. So it should be follow up based on the least privilege access. Maybe with the least privilege, which is going to meet your requirements, that is the only access that you need to have. Security is not like a technical problem that I'm going to solve it once and said, okay, I solved the problem, it's once, forever, I don't need to have to back to security because I have solved it. No, it's like ongoing discipline that we need to follow up like daily. Thank you.